Okay, here's the result. I decompressed that file into generated Linux, and inside that is this generated folder. Inside that are these 4 folders. These 3 are mostly of interest to developers because they have sort of intermediate results from tests in them. This is the one that we're interested in. It has our 2 binaries in it that we want to copy into our TNT installation. So let's do that. Here's the TNT installation. You'll notice there's a binaries folder here that is at the moment empty. Of course, we don't actually put any binaries in there because it's TNT's job to test binaries that you install there. So we'll copy in the stuff from downloads, generated Linux, generated bin, everything in there we'll put in our binaries. And now we see those 2 files in. And so the next thing to do, I think, is to actually run TNT. This part is going to be a little interesting because TNT starts up windows, and so far we've been recording just one window so that the text is big enough that you can read it. So I don't know exactly what we'll do here, but let's do Python. This is how you start start TNT, Python testnet.py. And there it is. Printed out a whole bunch of stuff to start. It says we've configured these Google Cloud instances, these Amazon instances. Of course, we haven't set up anything there. Also, no VirtualBox instances, but here's a whole bunch of Docker instances. As you'll notice, they're named after Pokemon. I forget whose idea that was. It might have been my idea, actually. But we found a file on the internet that had a bunch of Pokemon names, and just as we start the containers, we name them after Pokemon. That's probably, it turns out not to be a particularly useful thing with Docker. It's much more useful for the machines to have names in Google, Amazon, and VirtualBox, but at least they have names. So here TNT wants to know, do we want to run in the cloud? Do we want to run VirtualBox, Docker, or blank to exit? So we want Docker. And it says, how many instances do you want to use? How many nodes do we want to start? Well, I'm going to start 7 containers here. So if you look at what that just did, it set up Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur, Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard, and Squirtle. So those are containers that are running now. They don't have nodes on them yet. This is the time, and this is help, available commands. These are what the commands that you can type now and what they do. It's reasonably friendly. Here is the time when you would configure the various nodes to, start up exactly the way you wanted them start up. But I'm just going to start them up vanilla for this little demonstration. And I'm going to say start all. Now I could say start node 0, node 1, node, like that, but I don't want to. I'm just going to say start all. And here they're starting. Each one in its own container. Now you'll notice, if we look at these start messages, here is here's a node descriptor. Node 0 start, this is interesting, node 0 starts on IP address 2, see that? Node 1 starts on IP address 3, node 2 starts on IP address 4. That's always the case. So if you have your IP address, the last IP address digit here, you can tell what node dash that is by subtracting 2. So the last one to start up here, here 8, and this was node dash 6. And we started 7 nodes, nodes 0 through 6, so we used IP addresses 2 through 8. So now what do we want to do? Well, what I think we'd like to do here, without stealing too much thunder from another demonstration that's going to follow, is I think we want to just run some data through the system and watch what happens. So that means we want to tail node 0. And you can't see what this does because we're only looking at this window, but what that actually did was pop up another command window with a tail-f in it of the log file. So as that log file it shows where the log file is right now, and as the log file continues, we'll get more information there. I will see if I can bring that up here. Okay, here it is. Here's the log file. You can see it has the name and the IP address in the title. I think it would probably be better if it just said node-0. But anyway, you kind of get used to it after a while, so it doesn't matter. So here are a bunch of logs. This last log here looks like a bunch of gossip. Is that what it is? Well, it is. It received gossip. So it received all this gossip. Finished processing gossip about 6 nodes. Yeah, it ignored this gossip because it already knows everything that's in there. Okay, so here's the log. So I'm going to now move back. I can't really show you both of them at once. So I'm going to move. Well, no, I won't. I'll keep letting you look at this one, and I'll go back to my other window, which you won't see, and I will type curl in it. CURL node-0. I'll show you this command later after it's already done. And so what it does there is it subverts the DNS on Bulbasaur and gets ready to run a curl on it. In other words, gets ready to consume some data on it. And it asks me how many curls for Bulbasaur. I'm going to say 1. There's a so that you don't have to type your own URL for curl. There's a built-in URL. If you curl the built-in URL, what you get is there's this website that has a page that tells you the first million digits of pi, and that's the page that gets curled in. So I'm going to do that. You watch what happens here in this log. I'm going to hit enter right now. Okay, now there's a whole bunch of stuff that just ran by that you didn't see. I will roll back and show it to you in the log. These are the debts that got accrued to the wallets for all the CORS packages that just went. So here are the CORS packages. I don't want to take too much time. Is this a return route? Yes. Don't want to take too much time looking at all of this stuff. That can be a different video. However, there's a return route message here, and we can see that the exit node was the one with this public key. Started with Q2DR. Okay, so if we wanted to look at before we did this curl, we had no idea which node would be selected as an exit node. But we want to go find the node that's got Q2DR, come on, node descriptor, public key. So let's go back and look for that. Okay, I told you I'd show you the curl command. It's right here. I typed curl node 0, and then it asked me how many curls. So I just typed 1, but I could type 10 or 100 or whatever, and it does them one after the other. If you want it to keep consuming for a while you watch it and do something, you can type in as many as you want and it'll keep doing them. But we only needed 1. But let's roll back here to look at these. Come on here, Q2DRV, that's the one that we're looking for. That's node 6, right? Because this is IP address 8. So that's node 6. Let's go do a tail of node 6 and see this from the other end. Okay, again, this popped up another window that you guys can't see because you're only looking at this window. Let's go find that. Okay, notice that this is Squirtle, and it's IP address 8, and here's the log, and here it's charging all the exit services that it provided. Here's all the data. Well, actually, here's some real data. And so on. You can see this stuff. If you were here with me, you would be able to see this stuff actually roll into the log. Because of the limitations of the screencast, I can't really. Well, I suppose I could if I set it up, but you have to trust me. You see the data roll by. So that is well. Let's go back to. Let's go back to the main window for a moment. Okay, here's the main TNT window. I'm going to get out here, and before I get out, I want to kill all the containers. So I'll just say kill all. Makes you feel like a megalomaniac, right? So there go, and it was something that you weren't able to see was that the two tail windows that I had up for Bulbasaur and Squirtle disappeared when the containers they were tailing disappeared. So now nothing is running except TNT. TNT is waiting for our next command. I'm just going to hit enter here, and I get a prompt back. So that's a very simple run of TNT. We just started up a network of 7 nodes and ran a bunch of data through it, and looked at the near and far end of that the logs for the near and far ends. We didn't look at any of the logs in the middle, but we could have. Once we found that routing message, we could have seen, well, it went through this node and this node, so let's go look at those logs. Something we could have done, we just didn't. And I think I forget exactly what's coming up next, but I think it's another example.